Welcome back, drawing buddies. This week we are going to talk about and draw Superman from pencils to inks to colors. So if that sounds like a good way to spend 20 minutes or so, then let's draw. Superman's first appearance was in Action Comics #1 from 1938. I don't remember the month, but that's not really all that important. Superman is technically the world's first superhero. I'm putting that in quotes because there were other costume heroes before Superman. There was the Shadow, and Shadow actually had superpowers. There was the Spirit. There was Doc Samson, Man of Bronze. I mean, technically there's Tarzan. So, I mean, there were other characters who were sort of superheroes, but Superman was the first real man in tights to catch on and create the genre as we know it. You know, the Spirit, he had tights and he did his hero things, but he wasn't really, he wasn't as fantastic as Superman. Superman is kind of like the template for the modern comic. In the early issues of Spawn, Todd McFarlane had some guest writers come in, and one of them was Dave Sim, who did Cerebus the Aardvark, the most, I wouldn't say the most popular, but it was the longest running indie comic up to that point. I think Spawn finally surpassed it because Cerebus went to issue 300. And Dave Sim wrote an issue. It was all about creators' rights. And there was a part where he takes Spawn into like this dungeon, and there's prison cells. And sticking out of the prison cells are the hands of, pretty much all the heroes you know and recognize. You could tell there's a Hulk hand, a Spider-Man hand, a Superman hand, a Batman hand, a Wonder Woman hand. Pretty much all the big guns you could think about. And he explains to them that these are all in cages, and these are all the, the heroes who have no rights because their rights were stolen from them, from their creators and everything. And then it finally cuts to a lone figure sitting in a cell that's obviously Superman. And they refer to him as he who came first. So, I mean, Todd McFarlane's not the bastion of comic book history and knowledge. But, even back then it was widely considered that Superman was the first real superhero. All the other ones were proto-heroes or more pulp heroes, but not actual superheroes. Because after him, then you got Batman, Green Arrow, Sandman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Our Man, the Spectre. It just exploded, and it was all because of Superman's popularity. And the funny thing was, Superman wasn't really, it wasn't easy to get him published. The creators, Simon and Schuster, they pitched the idea a bunch of times, and they drew it as comic strips. So when they put it in a comic book, when DC said, all right, we need to fill some space here, we'll put it in a comic book, they actually had to cut and move the comic strips around so that they could turn it into a comic book. So, yeah. And he also was originally a villain in a story they did called Rise of the Superman, I think it was called. So Superman had a history before, he became the Man of Steel that we all know and love. I totally skipped over the part where I was having all kinds of head troubles with him. And so I went to the whole thing where, I forgot what it's called, but when you draw one half and it mirrors it in the other half. And that seemed to work out for Superman's head on this one. DC, they didn't pay a lot for Superman. I think they paid a few $100, $800. It wasn't a lot. I mean, it probably considered a decent amount of money back in 1938. But considering they owned Superman in perpetuity, which means forever, it was a bad deal. And they did everything they could not to, pay their creators what they were worth back then. But they did sign a thing that said that their names would stay on the comic for all time. So that's why it always said Superman created by Simon and Schuster. And for a long time, that's what it was. I mean, they fought to get Superman rights back because, they basically created a $1 billion dynasty and got pennies for it. They were pretty much just paid as artists and writers. They weren't paid a creator's fee or anything. But the thing is, some of the Superman stuff wasn't created in comic books. He couldn't fly until the Fleischer cartoons. Kryptonite was introduced, I think, in the radio show. and all kinds of the superpowers, heat vision, all that stuff. Lex Luthor, I think, first appeared in either the radio show. Yeah, I think it was the radio show. So it wasn't just linear, It happened in a comic book. It was adapted to a TV show. It was adapted to a serial. It was adapted to, a cartoon. That stuff was adapted to the comic books. So in 2011 or so, the Schuster family actually won a lawsuit against DC, and the judge granted them ownership of everything that wasn't created in the comic book. So DC, for a short period of time, they didn't have the rights to Lex Luthor. They didn't have the rights to Kryptonite. They didn't have the rights to certain things that Superman could do. And don't quote me on this, because I never got to ask the question, because a friend of mine threatened me not to. I'm pretty sure that the New 52 relaunch was all about redesigning the DC universe around a Superman that didn't have all of the things that were created outside of the comic book, because they were working out deals with the Schusters and everything, and probably seeing how it worked, if they had to pay the stuff or not. I was going to ask that question at one of the New York Comic Cons at a DC panel, but my friend that I went with told me that I should not ask that question, and he'd hate me forever if we got thrown out of Comic Con for the rest of our lives. So I cowered out and didn't ask the question. I really wanted to ask the question, though, because I wanted a $100 Wing Casino chip, because I only have, I think, 25 and 50s. I might have a 5 and a 10 too. I don't even know where they are. I'd have to find them. But yeah, so I didn't ask the question, so I'll never know the answer. Unless someday I'm like, maybe I'll ask Jim Lee. He's going to be at Terrificon this year. I doubt he'll answer it the way that, in a clean answer, because, they have to answer these things politically. Because once they admit a fault, then it becomes legally liable. That's why when you're in an accident, you never say, oh, sorry, that was my fault. You always say, oh, that sucks. Let's see what happens. At least that's what you're supposed to do. The pencils were the longest part on Superman, obviously, because I just was screwing his head a lot, and it was like, the looking up thing, it's always been the bane of the artist's existence. But once you learn it, it's cool, but, I don't do it often, so I kind of had to spend a long time doing it and making changes, and then I didn't like his hair, and it's a pain in the neck. And then I kind of liked the leg that I had on him before, but I kind of just wanted more space to pull him out, and I really liked the pose, so I just toughed through this whole thing. The reason I'm drawing Superman, because I already drew Superman vs. Thor, and then I drew a cartoon version of Superman while I was doing a movie review of the James Gunn Superman, the 2025 Superman movie, which I should probably do more movie reviews with drawing. That would be probably a decent idea. But maybe we'll do that with Supergirl. I'll do a chibi Supergirl and do a movie review. But the reason I'm drawing Superman is because of the Supergirl movie coming out. So I'm going to have Superman this week. Then the next week, I'm going to have Lobo. And then the week that the Supergirl movie comes out, I'm going to have Supergirl. So Superman's drawn already, obviously. Lobo's already drawn already. I drew him first. And then Supergirl is pencil sketched. I kind of used reference from a really cool Lois Lane Superwoman thing, and I kind of made it my own thing. But the inspiration is definitely there. But it's a cool drawing, and I can't wait to finish it. I'm going to work on it tomorrow, and hopefully get it done tomorrow or the next day. And I also have Daredevil in the can, so I'll have like a month's worth of videos ready to go. So I'm really kind of excited about that. And recently, DC kind of did another company-wide relaunch kind of thing. And in this one, they took all the different versions of the heroes, and they merged them into one. So Superman is now a composite of all the regular Supermans. So all the weird Silver Age stuff he did, like sneezing a galaxy away, or chasing Supergirl through time and space and dimensions just because they were going really fast. That's all Superman canon now. And because of that, actually, we're not going to say because of that yet, because the pencils are done. It is now time to ink Superman. And I think this is the only time where I actually just sat down with maybe a little music on, and I just did the art. I didn't have TV on in the background. I wasn't watching something. So because of that, inking Superman goes super quick. I think there's only like 2 cuts in this whole thing. And that's because I got a text message that popped up on the screen because I forgot to shut off the internet and something else. But yeah, so that's another thing I'm going to start doing. I'm just going to say screw it. And I'm just going to sit down and draw with no distractions, because I definitely have too much of that in my life. And it definitely adds a lot of time onto all these things that I'm doing, because I'm easily distracted. So since Superman is pretty much the first superhero, and he has all the feats associated with everything he's done since 1938, and then some, I'm gonna go out with the controversial, not so controversial opinion that Superman is also the most powerful of your standard superhero. I mean, he's knocked out the creator of the DC Universe, or whatever she was, Perpetua. He has done some stuff. And it's all canon now. So Superman versus the Sentry, I'm going to go with Superman. Superman would destroy Homelander. He would destroy the Vulturamites from Invincible. He would destroy, not Omni-Man. Well, Omni-Man, yeah, but what's his name? Hyperion, Gladiator. It wouldn't even be much of a fight. I mean, Superman has the whole he gets knocked down but he gets up again thing. So you might win the first round, but the second round, it's all Superman, because his power is hope. He is the will to win. He is, everybody's hope for a better world, a better place. And as long as you got hope, you have a chance, and that's Superman. And that sounded really cheesy, but I'm sticking with it. And I wasn't always a huge Superman fan. I mean, I started reading Superman, not when I started reading comics. I started reading him around the death of Superman time, because my uncle went to the local comic show video store we had in town, and he picked me up the death of Superman. He got every issue they had randomly for some reason. And I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to read these. And then I just started regularly reading Superman. The rebirth, when he became blue and red. And then in the 2000s, late 90s, one of my favorite artists who drew Alpha Flight, Duncan Raoul, started drawing Superman, so I started reading Superman just because of him. In fact, I just bought a couple of his issues at the local comic shop in a dollar bin. It makes me sad that I got them out of a dollar bin, but one's a really cool crypto cover. I even have a couple original pages of comic art, and I have 2. And one of them is actually a Superman page drawn by Duncan Raoul, and Superman is heavily featured on the page. It's Superman versus Guy Gardner when Guy Gardner was Warrior, and I think they're actually in some version of Hell. I don't know, but it's a cool page, and I bought it in the early 2000s off eBay from whoever the inker was, and it was like cheap as cheap, because comic art wasn't really considered super valuable back then. And if you bought it off the inker, it was super cheap, because the inkers didn't make as much as the pencilers. And they needed to eat, and they got half of the art back then. So if they inked a Jim Lee book, they got half of the art from the Jim Lee book. So they had 11 pages of Jim Lee art they could do whatever they want with. One of my teachers at the Kubert School, his first assignment was subbing for Scott Williams on a Jim Lee book. So his first comic that he worked on was an issue of the X-Men that sold hundreds of thousands of copies. So he got residuals for that. He got half of the artwork. I mean, you can't go anywhere but down from there. And it was really cool because he brought all the pages in, so we actually got to look at them. And back then, I was buying comic pages. I used to have more than 2. I sold a bunch. But I wanted to buy a Todd McFarlane page, and I almost bought a Hulk page and a Spider-Man page. And they were only a few $100s. And yeah, a few $100s is a decent amount of money, but for a Todd McFarlane Hulk page or Spider-Man page, geez, I could probably pay off a house for one of those now. Especially if I happen to buy a good one that featured the main characters. Same thing with Jim Lee. I want to buy a Jim Lee page, but I just kept talking myself out of that stuff. I'm like, do I really need to spend this much money on a piece of art? And if it was today and the prices were the same, I absolutely would. I should have bought some Scudded Disposable Assassin pages back then, because when 2009, when he started, when he finished the book, he sold some pages for charity or whatnot, and they only went for, $200-$300. And I guarantee even those are worth a lot more back then. He's just an indie guy. So, yeah, don't be stupid, kids. When you have a chance to buy something that could potentially be extremely valuable, do it. Like when I didn't buy a Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns page for $450 in the late 80s. Mostly because I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I really didn't think any much about it then. It was more like, that's cool, but I'd rather get paid for the work I'm doing, because the guy I was working for, who worked in parades selling balloons and stuff, he said, I'll buy you that. You just won't get paid for the next 2 parades. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. I need to buy candy and dumb stuff. So I didn't buy a Batman Dark Knight Returns page for $450. Oh, and the inks are done. Now it's time to color Superman. I have a confession to make. After I got the spot colors in, I totally didn't record all the shading and stuff because I was downstairs babysitting the little one. And so I took a break to do things with her, and then I got another break where I could start coloring. And I forgot to push the record button, probably because I was talking to her and doing it at the same time. So, but I do a thing where I just take the layers up and I leave them on screen for a second so you can see what I did. I actually am really happy with the coloring on this, with the background and everything, because of the clouds and the way I put him over him, so he's kind of coming out of the clouds. It was fun, and it was a neat thing, and I got to play with some brushes I normally don't use, some grain shaders they're called, which I should use more often because they are really cool. Maybe I'll start to color with those. I got a new monitor / TV for the videos because I was using a 60-inch TV and it was starting to strain my neck, so I got a 43-inch. And the colors on this TV are terrible. I mean, I've played with all the settings. I got to find out how to get into the settings for the repairmen so I could really mess with the colors, because they're really bright and they're really orange. And I know they don't look like that because I printed out a Superman before I started this commentary, so I could have them for my portfolio for Terrificon to sell to people. And they look fine, and they look fine on the iPad. They look fine on my phone. But on this TV, man, they are super orange. And it also got me worried, thinking, I'm sure he looks orange on other people's TVs too. And I'm like, so not cool. Yeah, so the only thing I actually show the shading on in real time is the flesh color. The blue, the red, the orange. Did not record it. Which kind of stinks, because I used my halftone brushes for a lot of it to get texture. I didn't, so I'm like, so bummed, because I did some highlighting, some shading, but I left all the fun stuff in, like how I made the sun glow a little bit and how I did the clouds. So they started filming the Man of Tomorrow movie. That's James Gunn, and it also has, it'll be Lex Luthor in his armor. The purple and green armor. So that's probably going to be another fun Silver Ages romp, just like the first Superman movie. So I am all for it. I am super excited for Supergirl, which is loosely based on the Women of Tomorrow limited series. So I'm actually going to read that on the DC app when I go to do the voiceover for her after she's done being drawn, because it's supposed to be really good, and I'm sure the movie takes a lot of liberties with that because it's only 2 hours, and the comic is a 4-issue miniseries, but it's a maxi series. It's a nice thick books with the cardboardish covers and everything, so I'm looking forward to reading that. I think it's still going to be kind of fun, but I think it's going to be a little bit darker, since it basically, what sets her off to go do her thing is somebody shoots Crypto with a poison arrow, and they're not sure he's going to make it, because I guess they were on a planet with a red sun, so, and I don't know why they didn't take her to the yellow sun planet, but I don't know how Kryptonians heal in that universe either, and I don't think they do yet either, so we will find out. But the yellow sunlight healed up Superman up to 80% within a matter of seconds, so don't know. But, you need something to push your narrative forward, and Crypto is what pushes the narrative forward on this one, apparently. And they show him as a puppy, and he's all a little cute and stuff, and they're going to show Argo City, where Kara grew up. Somehow the city survived the destruction of Krypton. They're going to show all that. And that's all I could talk about for that because Superman is done. So thanks for stopping by. Like, subscribe, and all the fun stuff you're supposed to do. Have yourselves a great week and go out and draw something.